Donald Trump blinked first. This was quite a remarkable battle. This was the first full tussle in this Trump administration, the second term between China and the United States. I think that Donald Trump underestimated the dependence that Americans have on Chinese goods. For example, 99% of the toasters that Americans buy are made in China. The iPhone is assembled in many places, including China, and the component parts come from around the world. So Donald Trump imposed these tariffs, and then as each day went on, realised more and more that in fact America is hooked on Chinese goods, on cheap Chinese goods. And he started trying to say things like, look, a girl can have, only needs 2 dolls rather than 20. And, he was trying to essentially wean Americans off consumption. That hasn't worked. Americans love having a lifestyle beyond their means, and China enables that to happen. And so the Americans have said, at least for the moment, that the war is on hold, the tariff war is on hold.
And Trump is saying this is a total reset. Is it? I mean, what happens in the next 90 days?
This is a reset to the extent that the Chinese and the Americans are talking, they're having real conversations. So amid all of the chaos of the way that Donald Trump operates, sometimes there comes through the middle some sort of longer term benefit. The Americans and the Chinese have sat down over the weekend, they've had long talks, and Donald Trump suggested a few hours ago that later this week he'll be having a conversation with Chinese President Xi Jinping. And so I think that from this, both sides have understood that the consumers in both sides, the Chinese and the Americans, need each other. And in fact, it was interesting because Donald Trump was asked today, at the end of this 90 days pause, is it possible that he will put the tariffs on China back to 145%? He flat out said no. At 145%, you are really decoupling. Nobody will buy anything. So what's come out of this is the understanding now that these two economies need each other. In the global economy, you can't suddenly say that you are isolated from the rest of the world. And I think Donald Trump has learned that lesson very clearly.
And markets reacting positively to that.
Of course, markets, we know, hate uncertainty. They don't like what's going to happen if they don't know what's going to happen the next day. Financial markets have had a huge boost out of this. But over the last 2 months, of course, it's been a roller coaster. It's really been quite a wild ride. Now, at least the markets know that for the next 90 days, there is some stability between the Chinese and the American economies. And I think out of all of this, what's likely to happen is at the end of those 90 days, I think the Americans and the Chinese will have greater understanding, and I think they will reach their own plateau. And I think that clearly the Chinese had the trade benefit in this relationship. That's been wound back slightly. The Chinese still have tariffs on them, which they didn't have 3 months ago. So in a way, America's achieved something out of this, but it's come at a pretty wild cost.
And what does all of that mean for us here in Australia?
What this means for Australia is that every country now is fighting for themselves. There's no such thing anymore of we are part of the American alliance, we've got a free trade agreement with America, therefore we'll get benefit. In the world of Donald Trump, those understandings mean nothing. The world has changed. Every country now has to fight for its own interests and in its own corner. Whether it's China, the UK has just done a deal. What it means for Australia is we've got to get in there. We've got to make a deal with the Americans, the best possible deal we can make. And past friendships with America means nothing.